parts of this.
Oh,
Okay. Um, Welcome everyone. I know there's only two of y'all, but that's okay. A lot of these lectures, like obviously it is very much like live stream, people can show up, but also the point of this is because Space City is more than just like lectures. We have a whole database of a bunch of like resources. Any other posts that you guys have seen before of like practice rounds, all that other stuff, it's all recorded, it's posted in the Discord server, Google Drives, all of that is like link in bio on the actual Space City account. So we also do like really cool summer camps, everything like that. And that is all to say that like what's happening right now is adding up to a broader range of resources that are definitely accessible and that I definitely encourage you to go pursue after this because there's a lot more to World Schools debate than just the ballot. So Space City, as I'm sure you'll know, functions basically to just give people more resources and also to kind of focus on the things that people don't talk about within like World Schools specifically, which is what this presentation is going to be about, which is breaking down the ballot. But first, who are we? Um, I'm Natalie. This is Liam. I'll let him introduce himself, but my name is Natalie. I've been doing World Schools. I've been doing debate for 4 years, but this is my third year doing World Schools. World Schools actually isn't really one of my like super main events. I do like a bunch of other events, and not that this is like a flex or anything, but I think that this is just to say that like that's why I'm really passionate about this subject in particular, because I think a lot of what World Schools is very cross applicable with other events, because not a lot of debate events even consider like style whenever you're incorporating the decision for the ballot, like on tab room or something like that. So I was a state finalist in original oratory. So I'm very passionate about like style, persuasion, rhetoric, everything like that. I'm also a two-time state finalist with UIL Congress, which again, Congress is also one of those debate events where it is a definitely more push on like rhetoric. So I would say that one of my like specializations when it comes to world schools is rhetoric. I'm very passionate about speaking, persuasion, everything like that. And I think that that is something that I've been like complimented on a lot, you know? So that's why I wanted to give this discussion today, is because a lot of people underestimate the importance of things like style and strategy and just focus on, oh, writing the case or, oh, winning arguments, winning points of clash, everything like that. When in reality, and this has happened to me before, you can win a round by having better strategy and better style, even if you have lackluster content. That is something that people really underestimate. So I think that it's really important to shed light on all those other aspects. But I'll let Liam explain his calling.
yeah. I'm Liam. Some of y'all, or both of y'all, probably know me. I'm sure Tage has probably gone deep into dive of who I am. Um, I think I really like just the concept of breaking down the ballot in general because I think that since I kind of switched from LD to World Schools in my sophomore year, I've really tried to like focus on swaying the judge rather than just like winning the debate because I think a lot in the status quo or just currently people are focusing a lot on like, oh, let me link and warrant dump and let me not substantiate any of my, findings by actually being persuasive, right? So I think that a good, also just a way that me and Natalie are kind of similar is that we've debated together, and I think our debate style is sort of comparable to each other. I think I am still a little bit more flow heavy than her, but I think that we are pretty style heavy. I've always kind of debated in regards to style. I try to be a little bit snarky, not rude, but I try to make sure that like to keep the other team, make sure to keep them on their toes, stuff like that. When a lot of people aren't doing that. So I think that like you can win rounds not just being like this link, this link, this link, this warrant. You can actually be like persuasive, and I think we've lost that aspect of persuasive in debate. So I think that we're going to try to capitalize on that and teach you all how to do that today. So yeah.
Yeah, as you can see in the picture again, debated against each other, debated with each other. It is definitely something where it's like, I would say we are both more of the style heavier debaters compared to other more like technical debaters. And I think that's also indicative of the Austin circuit because me and Liam are both from Austin. Austin kind of doesn't have super prominent worlds program. And
Yep.
I think Austin is more of like a speech driven city. So we have been around a lot of other speech kids. And so we've been like tapped into that element.
Yes.
Um, yes, what we're going to go over today. First, introduction, just kind of go over again, like the three parts of the ballot. And then with the ballot, we're going to show you and walk you guys through like what the judges actually see, because I think a lot of competitors don't really know like A, what a ballot actually looks like, B, what the things that they're learning in like judge training and stuff like that, because that's really important. And then we're going to go dive into the specifics with content, style, strategy, and then do a conclusion if you guys have any questions or just kind of like wrapping it up. For the introduction, the goal of World Schools, like any debate event, is to win. I think that that's pretty cut and dry. Everyone who wants to do debate wants to win. I think the difference is, I will say, I think World Schools is the debate event that is the most prominent seen judge screws. And I think the reason that you see stuff like that is because World Schools at its core is made to be accessible. As a result, you see a lot of parent judges, you see a lot of speech judges, you see a lot of LD judges. They kind of like pull a bunch of different people. There are very few actual World Schools judges. So, World Schools debaters have to be ready for anything. And I think that's why these three elements are really, really important, is because all three of these elements are made to appeal to someone who's never even like seen World Schools before. And I don't know if anyone is familiar with events like CX or PF, or where it's like very easy, kind of. It's easier to have a cleaner way to win. It's easy. You just extend all three arguments, you bring them all through, you weigh, boom, you did it. World Schools, you can think that you extend everything. You can think that you weighed really well, and then you're losing. And people are like, oh, it's a judge group. Oh, they just weren't listening. That's not necessarily true because, again, you can be extending everything, but you're not aware of how much strategy plays a role. You're not aware of how much style plays a role. Stuff like that is very, very unique to World Schools, where there's less things that are actually being weighed against you in a debate round. Debate rounds that are really technical, obviously, I'm not saying by any means they're easier, but I am saying that it is going to be less in like it's going to be less judge screwy, I guess, because
Or
less goes
margin of
into the actual
error.
yeah, like less goes into the actual ballot of deciding like who wins. There's less factors at play, you know? And again, with CX, you also have CX judges. LD, you have LD judges. You have things like strikes, you have things like prefs. Worlds, it's just like luck of the draw. Kind of just throw people in there. They take a little bit from everywhere. So you need to be ready for like everything. And as the bottom says, World Schools is evaluated on three metrics: style, strategy, content, with each being weighed a little bit differently. Liam, do you have anything to add for like uniqueness about World Schools judging?
Yeah, I mean, just kind of adding on to what Natalie said, like it's purely the luck of the draw on your judges and like who you're gonna get. You could get, the person that runs this camp, Diego, who is like one of the most experienced judges probably in the world, or you could be lucky enough to get him. Or if you go to a local, you could have a parent who has never judged a single debate, right? So like you need to be able to adjust to a really, really high level judge and win style, strategy, and content. But in a situation in which you're put into a room with just a parent and the other team who may be not familiar with World Schools and they came from a different event, you need to be able to adjust to the judge. And I think that's something, like Natalie said, that's very, very unique to Worlds and basically doesn't exist. It's basically what they tried to do with PF until it became kind of cooked, right? Because it's not public anymore. But yeah,
Yeah,
covered
because
it.
they're not going to put parents in CX because parents aren't going to be aware, like they're not going to really know like an Afro pessimism K,
Right.
stuff like that isn't going to really happen in Worlds, so they're more comfortable putting them there. This is what the ballot actually looks like. If you look at the top, that one is going to be the paper one, very old school. I'm sure that your guys' coaches, if they're like old, are familiar with it. But the
Oh, yeah.
bottom one is going to be the tab room one. This is one that like everyone sees nowadays. And I think it's really, really important because I'm sure that I know that you both who are on this right now have competed in worlds, and the people who are watching the future probably have at least a little bit experience in worlds. You get your speaker points, and it's like, oh, usually you'll get like 73, 74, 75, and then you'll get the reply speaker points. That is tabulated based off of like the speech, style, content, and strategy for every single speaker. So it's not just a 75 because you had amazing style. You get that 75 because you had good style, content, and strategy. So I think it's really important to know that all three of those go into speaker points. A lot of people think speaker points is just style. That's not true. Speaker points is not just style. Speaker points is tabulated by the things. Like, obviously, style is important, but styles we weighted equally as content. Because if you look on the left of the slide, style is 40%, content's 40%, and then strategy is 20%. So again, you can win style and strategy, win the round. You can win content and strategy, win the round. The winner of the round is determined based off of who wins like a majority of the points that exist within this pool.
It's I think another really unique thing in Worlds is that there's not low point wins.
Mhm.
In LD, you can have low point wins. In PF, you can have low point wins, but you need to win every single one, win the majority of the points, or you will not win the round. You can't escape that. So,
Yeah. So yeah, low point win in PF would look like you have terrible, terrible style points, but you still win the round because of argumentation. That cannot happen in world schools. World schools, you need to be able to win everything, like Liam said. So it's really important to just kind of compartmentalize that when you are debating, this is what the judge has in front of them. Especially in parent judges, will see this and run with it. So a lot of the time, when you feel like you're getting screwed, a lot of it has to do with content, i.e., I'm sure that you do have better content, but the other team can just like outspeak you. And as much as you might disagree with the concept of that's how it's being judged, they can win by, again, like maybe they drop their arguments or something. But if they have better strategy, which I guess they wouldn't if they drop their arguments and style, though, they will win. And I think that like a lot of the time is why people feel like judge screws are happening so much. So I think like shedding light on this is very, very important. But the first part that we're going to go into style. Style is one of, in my opinion, the most underutilized way to win a round. It is weighted equally as content in terms of the point system. I will say a lot of higher level debate judges kind of deviate from this because, like, logically, it doesn't make sense. Like, debaters should win by debating well, but parent judges will usually default to like tunnel visioning on like, oh, style is the same as content, you know? So a lot of people don't really utilize this properly. Style is how you deliver your speech, your presence, clarity, confidence, everything like that. It's kind of just like owning the room. It is like vibes and like kind of confidence. You get style points by strong eye contact, clear, confident vocal delivery, effective pacing, natural gestures, persuasive, basically just style, you know? And I think that a lot of people write this off, especially in my opinion, the one. The one is an amazing opportunity to farm style points. You have so many opportunities to pre plan like funny little jokes, a good AGD, some really strong rhetorical lines, because style isn't just being funny. Style is also really emphasizing the impacts of your debate. It's humanizing it. If you have a personal story or something about like a stakeholder. So if the argument has to do with like lesser developed countries, whether they should pursue globalization or protectionism, you can have a really strong story of like something that's actually happening within an LDC and kind of humanize the issue. I also think style can be one of the most difficult to improve. I think the most difficult to improve are strategy and style because content can come from case writing, that can come from like working with a bunch of people. Style, though, you kind of really have to work hard on it in order to improve because you can't just overnight become better at speaking extemporaneously. Overnight, you can't really become funny, you know? Lots has to go into that. So, when it comes to how to improve, one of the best things that I will always recommend is doing extemp. Extemp is a speech event. Basically, how it works is it's the best way to practice confidence and the best way to kind of sharpen up your mind for doing world schools because world schools doesn't have prep time. How extemp works is you get 30 minutes to prepare a topic, give a speech, and memorize it, stuff like that. So it is kind of just like really, it's like kind of a tampered way of doing like impromptu drills, you know? And that leads us to the next one, which is speaking drills. Speaking drills look different, like per school. I know that for my school, we have a fun one where we will give a speech. And if we give any filler words, so like anything like that, we get paper thrown at us, like little balls of paper that they just like chuck at us. And then sometimes if it's really bad, it'll be pens. Obviously, it should never hurt anyone, you know, but like fun little speaking drills like this can really help someone build up their confidence, everything like that. Watching speech events is also really underutilized because, in my opinion, a lot of good speakers come from people who also do speech events, which I might be biased because I did OO. But I think that learning things like comedic timing, learning things like how to sound really rhetorically appealing and like emotional, and how to actually make judges believe you. Watch events like Original Oratory, where the goal is literally to make your judge believe what you are saying and make them feel an emotional connection. Humorous interpretation, the goal is literally to be funny. Most of the time, they're not that funny, but some of them are really, really good. Practice reading your case. Again, a lot of ones will just write this off. Like, it always makes me so mad when people are like, oh, the first speech doesn't matter. The first speech kind of does matter because if you bomb that, you're like stuttering through the entire thing. You are giving the first impression of your team. Get up there, look confident, even if you have no idea, even if you just wrote that case like 30 minutes before the round, Be confident in what you're saying. Because again, this is the first impression the judge is getting of your entire team. You want to own that room. You want to, like, again, make them believe you. And then also being well informed on the topic. This helps with second speakers, third speakers, and replies. If you don't know what you're talking about, if you're not able to bring up anything outside of your case, like if they're bringing up a new argument, you have never even ever heard of it, that means you're not doing enough research on the topic. You should be well versed enough on the topics to be ready for anything that comes at you. And also, even if it's like, oh, I've never heard of this specific link, I do know that this like similar warrant exists, this similar evidence that might be able to combat this stuff like that. So being very, very well informed will also help with your confidence because if you don't know what you're talking about, the judge will be able to tell. Liam, do you have any?
Wait, go back one
Go
slide.
back.
Okay, I think I have my own few notes on style. I think it's not just always like be funny, blah blah blah. Like I think there's some really like unique things that you can do and like some really big mindset shifts in order to become really, really good at style. So I guess I'll start at the one is that like a lot of the time the one is very upset because they're doing the one. They're like, oh, they get very down on themselves. I'll tell you, we have kind of a one crisis at my school, and they're always like, oh, well, I'm giving the one. Like no, it's a very, very important speech. And if you sound extremely confident in what you were saying, the judge is going to believe you. And that's another thing. It's like one of the biggest lessons that I ever learned to become better at style, because the transition from LD to Worlds was very, very hard. I was giving, you know, 9 links and warrants over and over again. They told me that you need to be a narcissist in round. And I know that sounds crazy, but like, don't be a narcissist out of round, but pretend that you are the most confident person and you are the best debater in that room, and just be confident about yourself, and you will win the round. Like, that is the biggest piece of advice that I am not only given, but also like, or have been given, but also give to people if they are not a very confident debater. Secondly, I think that style can be very, very good in regards to being very, very convincing. Natalie was talking about how if you just have like really good ball knowledge on a topic, I think that's probably one of my biggest strong suits. I think Natalie would agree. When we debate together, we sit in an impromptu round and I just try to come up with 20 examples and, a bunch of anecdotes, right? So like if you were just really, really aware on the topic, you are going to be able to beat your opponent 10 times out of 10, especially on a impromptu topic. If you just know examples, and they might call you out and be like, how are we gonna know that's true? But don't get discouraged by that. If you know the knowledge and you can convey that to your judge and you have the knowledge to actually convince them, they will believe you, and just don't like falter from it. I think just like another just little thing on style is that like if your teammates aren't super confident with their like ability for speaking, if you tell them that like, oh, you're gonna do great, as long as you like encourage your teammate, it's going to make those style points come up as well. Like I think we had a one going into the UT tournament who wasn't very confident with their speaking, and we would tell her before every time she would speak that like you're gonna do great, right? And we told her that you know what, don't worry, pretend you're the only person in the room and that you're speaking to yourself or speaking to someone that you really, really care for. She became much better, right? So I think that like you just need to like be confident, be don't like look down upon yourself, and pick everybody else up on your team as well. So yeah, that's just what I have to say on style.
I also think one last thing. As Liam did say earlier, I there has been an epidemic of a lot of world kids think style equals being mean. No,
Yes.
being snarky and being mean are completely different. The goal is not to be mean, and you shouldn't pick on your opponents. A lot of it should come from things that are like moments of like laughing moments, but not laughing at anyone in the room, but more like laughing at the absurdity of something that's going on in the debate. I think a really good like way to like kind of check yourself is like, would you say this in front of like your coach or the opposing team's coach? And I think you should kind of just consider that if it's something your coach, like, I don't know, maybe your coach is like really, really mean, but that's why I like the opposing team coach because they're like protective of their kids. Like you don't want to be offending them because also a lot of kids think like yelling equals style, or a lot of people think that like shouty equals style. No, the most powerful moments of style come from being quiet. Like it literally comes from holding that energy and just like having this passion, and then you just get like really, really quiet. And that is like the key way to also like stay calm, because I'm sure that a lot of y'all know a lot of world's kids, very, very aggressive, very, very shouty, everything like that. It looks so much better if you don't match their energy and instead you tell the judge and you're like, hey, let's refocus this debate. Let's walk you through it very clear and concise, because it looks a lot better if you're not trying to outshout them, but rather you're like bringing the debate down. You're showing you can be humble. You're showing humility, everything like that. So then I think Liam can
I
lead
have
you guys
one more
on.
thing. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yes. No, you're good. You're good.
Um, so just to build off of that, I think that a big part of style is not getting lost in the sauce, I guess, is like when your opponent, first of all, there's nothing more annoying to a judge than when you're yelling at them, I promise you. Like I've had judges tell me in the past, you're yelling at me, please be quieter. Also, I've unfortunately had my own experiences with being too mean in rounds and losing ballots off of them, calling people out, especially. Don't do that. Like, if you're going to be snarky, be like, this is something that they said is incredibly absurd. And I think you should think about this in the large scope and realize just how ridiculous it is. Like, just in how insanely, like, abhorrent the thing that they're saying. Don't be like, oh, so and so is my friend on the other team and they're so stupid, which I have done to Natalie and we've done to each other in the past. But if you know the judge and you know the team, that's something you might be able to get away with, but don't do that normally. Okay, content. Cool. Um, First, content is what you say. It's the quality of your arguments. It's what you are going to be conveying to the people, especially the judges in your round. If that's one judge, if you're in a break round with three judges, five judges, depending on where you're debating. This is your framework, your two substantive arguments. This can be changed wildly depending on who exactly you're conveying this information to. So, if it's a parent judge, you should try to dumb it down, right? So, if you're doing a principled argument, you should establish that this is the most important argument in the round. You cannot vote for the other side because this is their principal violation. You should be like, this is bad. This is the action that they are doing that is bad. If you have a more high level judge, you can go more into jargon. You can be a little bit more tech heavy where you're being like, oh, internal links, stuff like that. But if you really, really want to convince a judge that is not super experienced, you just need to dumb it down a lot. And I think that's something that we're experiencing not just on the Austin circuit, but more on the Dallas and Houston circuit now, because a lot of like college students who need to make, some money come back and they judge a event that they are not exactly familiar with. And that's how you can make it more palatable for them. Especially on framework, need to make it a little bit more palatable. This is stuff like modeling. This is definitions debate. Don't make it too complicated. Stuff like that. And then just on like practical argumentation, you really need to substantiate and really impact your arguments, because a big trend in like right now is that people will just be like, these are the impacts, blah blah blah, and move on to their second impact, or move on to their second impact or their next impact or the next substantive. Like you really need to go into depth on why and how that impact is important, which is not happening right now. How do you get content points, right? Because content is held on the same way. Content is 40. Yeah, content is held on the same exact weighing mechanism that is that is style. Because even if you are like going for the less advocated for, which is style, you still need to make sure that you don't sway too far away from content, right? So like you need to be very, very clear and logical. Go back to your roots of debate. Pretend like you never joined debate and you're explaining and you're really substantiating an argument that you're really, really passionate about. Don't be jargon heavy, just explain it. Make sure you have the warrants and the impacts that are there to prove it, right? So if you tell me something that is like super, super big, oh, this many people are being affected by this random impact, right? If you don't tell me a either empiric or a good substantial warrant to do that, and the other team calls you out, I will cross it off the flow, or like the judges will cross it off their flow because it is not a believable argument. Third, accurate and relevant evidence. You need to make sure that you're one, using recent evidence, and two, using evidence that is like actually accurate, right? Because if someone is going to like someone might call you out for like an evidence that actually has nothing to do with it, but you swayed it to look like it was advocating for you. And I think that's something that like judges really, really hate. Fourth is that direct engagement with the other side's arguments. And this is something that is really, 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 really bad that is happening. Because like an op one will stand up and they'll just read the case and then respond and think like, oh, I'm the one, so I don't have to respond to the arguments that much. If they make substantive arguments that are super, super good, spend a little bit less time on case, cut out an impact on either one of your substantive arguments, and really, really hammer in on directly engage with their substantive arguments. I've seen this happen before. Subs can stand even after the op one gives refutation, and I think that it's really, really important to take it out even out of the op one. This is also true with like a two or a three because sometimes they can just get lost with giving a bunch of responses but not responding to the big picture impact. Then depth over quantity, and I think this is really, really important, and it's mainly just on the one is that instead of giving, five warrants and six impacts for every single substantive argument, you should really just hammer in on one, two, or maybe three, right? Like, I don't want you saying there's this impact, this impact, this impact. I want you to spend a lot of time on each impact and very clearly delineating why it's important, who it's harming, or what it's benefiting for net society. Finally, is clear internal link chains. And this is a little bit different, right? Because it's not going to happen with your main basis, and it's kind of hard to explain to a parent judge. So this is what's going to happen if you get like the Diegos or the Rodrigos of the world who are judging you and that are very, very high level and can understand tech, is that clear internal link chains happen whenever like their substantive arguments link into your arguments within it of itself and how you can actually make their argument look worse by yours. It's definitely kind of hard to explain, but you can just like link each other's substantive arguments and how they can take each other out just on the basis level. Natalie, you can add. I just said a lot, but yeah.
Yeah, you're good. I think that when it comes to that last point, especially with internal links, and then what you were saying earlier with like parent judges and everything like that, it's not necessarily like by me and Liam aren't trying to say like, oh, like parents are like brain dead, you need to dumb down everything. It's
Yeah,
more
that's what I
just something
said.
where it's like it's more just that you have to change the language that they use because everyone, your judge will always have a brain, hopefully. You should always be judged by a human being with a brain. They have the capacity to understand you. It's just, again, why people feel like they're getting screwed in world schools is because the words you say make sense. They don't make sense to a parent. Even if you just say something as basic as, we have three warrants here, they might not know what that means. And I think that this is a big problem happening with world schools is you're starting to see the event become overtly technical where it doesn't need to be. As a freshman, my team and everything, we just called them layers. Then as a sophomore, it turned into warrants. Then as a junior, it turned into mechanizations. And then now it's like
Next.
trilateral layers of blah, blah, blah. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, that's a hyperbole, but layers, warrants, mechanizations, reasons, like all of that essentially means the same thing under an
Get
argument,
like a
you know?
parent, yeah, if you get like a parent judge, instead of being like, oh, here's a warrant, be like, here's a few reasons on why this is true. That's a really
Yes.
good way to convey that to someone who may
It's
not
not a
understand.
change in the arguments you're making. It's a change in the words that you're using to kind of describe them. Because saying things like impacts are shortcuts. You can explain what that means. And a lot of the time you just really, really, again, like just imagine not like you're talking to like a toddler, but honestly, yeah, like a child should be able to understand it. But the same way a child should be able to understand it, a teenager, any adult, like your parents or something like that. Like you need to make sure you're explaining it in a way that's accessible because that is what world schools is supposed to be. And that is a lot of the time you get judges from speech events, you get judges from other events. You need to make sure that you aren't just jumping in with these super technical phrases. And again, like Liam said, that's especially important with things like framework. Explain what a model actually is, explains what burdens actually are. And I think that the most important way, in my opinion, content can really, really be utilized is in the four, because a lot of people think as the four is just, oh, more rebuttal. No, this is the perfect opportunity to just say why you win. We win because we met the burdens. This is why this is important. This is what our burdens were, everything like that. That is the best way for you to just slow down the debate, refocus it, and just really, really drive home why you are winning.
I agree. Oh, okay. This one kind of meets close to home. So first, how to improve on content, especially watch high level rounds. I'm not talking about going, well, I mean, they're still probably good, but like don't just go onto, the NSDA website and you're going to watch like NSDA finals because that's not always the most like, credible source, right? Like go onto YouTube and look up WSDC Finals 2017 or WSDC Finals USA versus Canada in 2023. Like these rounds are some of the highest level rounds, especially because World Schools came from an international institution that wasn't the US, right? Like these people pride themselves on being extremely intelligent, extremely nuanced on their argumentation, and they will give you the highest level arguments that I promise, like you didn't even think you could think of for 10 years if you tried, right? Like these people are so intelligent that like you will hear arguments that you will want to be using for every single round for the rest of your debate career. Like it is a extremely good way to just learn how to argue and learn like things to use. Like I I I heard a lecture from this person that was on Team Indonesia in 2004, and they gave a lecture on kleptocracies. I'm still using that argument now in like it will convey itself as long as you were just willing to like learn the content. Second, avoid ChatGPT. This is kind of let me think of the right word. I use ChatGPT sometimes. I'll admit that. Okay. Natalie knows I do it, but it's bad habit, right? Like when I don't want to prep, I make cases from ChatGPT. Don't do that, okay? Like I
Liam also
promise.
isn't the only one. Like
Yeah,
we
no.
all know, like it's happened a lot. It's something on the circuit. Like it is something that needs to be addressed as much as it's like bad,
Yell
but
at Tage for using it. I know he's done it before too. Like, call him out. Don't do that. I that was premature. Okay. Yeah, don't use ChatGPT. Like, I know you might think like, oh, if I use ChatGPT, I'll be the only one. No, like I promise people from other schools are using it. If you don't sound like ChatGPT in round, because the judge isn't stupid, right? Like if they see you, using some really, really big words and like maybe you mispronounce some, right? Like they will know if you're using ChatGPT. If the other team is using it and you're not, I promise you that will make you look better in the eyes of the judge. Like if I'm sitting there and you don't look like you don't look like you know anything that you're talking about, that will, I mean, even if you're making a good argument, it makes you look bad, right? Like, yeah. Just some like good drills. Debate against your own case, right? Like take both your sides of your case that mean, assuming that you aren't prepping them an hour before round and go into your practice, divide your team like six people, maybe even less. You could do 2v2 depending on the size of your team and just like read the case and then have one person give 8 minutes of responses on it. Like that will make sure that you know that your content is airtight because you now know responses to your own case and now you can think about how you're going to respond to them once the other team does so. Um, get a diversity of opinions. Sometimes this is hard, right? Like, no, World Schools aims to be accessible, but it's always not. Me and Natalie are lucky enough to have consultants that look over our cases, but that's not always the case, right? And I think that like, Space City is a very, very good way to like learn how to get your cases looked over. I'm sure if you emailed Rodrigo or you emailed Diego, they'd be very happy to look over your cases and make sure you're not running into round not knowing anything, right? Like even your coaches, I know sometimes coaches are unreliable, teammates from different events or alumni is a very, very good way to like do that. I know we had some alumni that switched sides to another team, but it's a very good resource. Um, follow a structure. Whenever you're starting to prep a case, like when the new TFA topics come out, maybe one person is a specialist at framework, or another person is really, really good at the principle or the practical argument. Y'all will write that. Y'all will come together, look over it, make sure that it's good, and then start formulating the case in the big scheme of things. Make sure and go into Google Docs and label, the final version for the fourth time, right? Like I know that like you as long as you look over and follow a structure in which your case will be good and you look over and proofread it and make sure everything is good. Also, updating your cases after tournaments if you see an argument is either bad or like it's very, very easy to access, or maybe you want to supercharge an argument from something that a judge told you. I know every single time I get Hondo as a judge, she makes me rethink my case every single time and it gets better, right? Like I think it's a very like stuff like that is a very, very good resource. Also have nuance. Like don't go into round and like unintentionally be racist. Like I promise, like that is something that happens, or just like know what you're arguing. Don't start arguing like a really, really sore subject and you know nothing about it. And then someone calls you out and you just like are lost and are blank and like you're just like, I promise, as long as you know a little bit of nuance about the topic, it will make you like get out of sticky situations like that. And I'm sure Natalie's been in a situation like that. I've definitely been in a situation like that before. It's really, really bad, and you could potentially get in trouble because of it. Yeah, okay.
Finals.
All
Just
right.
just to add on to some of it,
That
the
wasn't my
diversity of
fault.
opinion thing is also really important. Again, when knowing like, hey, I might have a parent judge. Who's the equivalent of a parent judge? My teammate who does humorous interpretation, or my teammate a beer who does LD, like
Bro.
you can have judges from different events. If you need to appeal to them, the best way to do that is talk to the kids within these events. It also really makes like it also helps you to know like even if I don't do this event, if I have a judge who does this event, my teammates have prepared me. This is what they might be looking for. So it also really, really helps with adaptation and strategy, which Liam will get into more with the next one. And then also with follow structure, this also comes with the other speeches, second, third, fourth. They should all have some sort of structure. There's some really good resources on Space City and also just across like equality and forensics and like the just online in general, even the NSDA handbook of like how you should be structuring your two, how you should be structuring your three, how you should be structuring your reply, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
following the
Yeah.
structure is a really, really good way to kind of make sure you're hitting all the marks, making sure you're mentioning everything you should. But all in all, just have good content.
Yeah. One more thing, on the diversity of opinions thing. Like often if you're debating a topic, it's been a topic before in a different event. Like 2 years ago, when both me and Natalie were sophomores, the triples topic at Nats was about was it
UBI.
at UBI, and like
Yeah.
UBI was a policy topic like 4 years ago, and our coach, who literally knows nothing about world schools, pulled out the 10,000 page block file and was like, here's everything you need to know about UBI. And then we ended up running some weird counter model on a federal jobs guarantee. But
That's what
like
we did too.
that, yeah, yeah. It ends up like you end up having really, really good arguments from people in different events because it has been a topic before and they have a lot of information on it. Like
Especially
you could
Congress
run
events.
you could
Congress
run a
events.
world's version of a cap K if you really wanted to. Like as long as you can like get the information from other people, I promise that they'll be willing to help you.
Mm.
Okay.
You want to start?
Yeah. Okay. So strategy. I think strategy is super underrated, in my opinion. I mean, I think so. I think, especially in my school, we try to actually emphasize strategy because, if you're like one of those perfectionists who really, really like getting, not just a 71 or a 72 or, somewhere in there, right? This is where you make the 71s into 75s, right? Because like you get the 40 points or the 40% for each of the two first topics, but this is what will really put you over the edge. It'll make you third speaker at the tournament, or it'll make you even the top speaker at a really big tournament if you're really, really good at strategy. So like I think, I tried to write a good definition that wasn't too like, I don't know, like shifty, right? And try to be like very, very simple. Is that strategy is how you use speech in the round to make sure that you can win. I.e., this is like, I don't know, making a sub that, will be able to hide something very little in it, or, making sure a definition maybe is a little bit tricky so you can get away with some arguments later in the round. Like, you need to be super, super smart with how not only you build the content in your case, but also convey your words to make sure that it can either slip their mind or you could just get away with something that like will come to light later in the round. So it may not be as like big for the one, right? But it may be really, really huge in the two, three, four op block stuff like that. Second, it's how you do your clashes, your weighings, and adapting to both the judge and the opponents. So strategy looks really, really good to a judge if like your one and your two are or your one is like super stylistic, right? But then your two is like really, really techie. And that doesn't have to look like using a bunch of debate jargon. It could be like just taking out and absolutely demolishing their case. Maybe they're less like performative in their speaking, but they're going to take out their entire case. And then your three is a little bit of a mix of both. They have style, they have the strategy, and then the four is super, super stylistic. It's especially good if you're a 2-4, because you can be very, very techie in the 2 and not just techie, but also very style in the 4. It makes you look like a very versatile speaker and it makes you look very, very good. That's what makes your strategy points go up a lot because you're not just, very techie. You're not just very styly. You have a lot of different facets in which you can debate and it makes you look very good. How do you get strategy points? First, clear weighing of impacts. I want to make this very, very clear. Whenever you are weighing, you need to actually weigh. People are saying that they're weighing, but I promise you that they are not. Like, I'm pretty sure like there are a lot of people who do not know how to weigh a principle versus a principle. Like that is just like people think that they are weighing, but they're actually not. So you need to actually weigh the impacts against each other. Use your main weighing mechanisms. Time frame, magnitude, stuff like that. Go down every single weighing mechanism if you have to. If you're like the 3 and you're doing your points of clash, you actually need to weigh because I promise you, as a person who has judged worlds before and a judge that is mildly experienced, if you're not actually weighing, they will penalize you and they will call you out. Like we had a round at UT where we did not weigh nearly as much as we needed to. Fortunately, we still won, but they were like, yeah, you did not weigh at all. Like you need to actually weigh. Um, this is actually one of my favorite things. The second item is smart use of POIs. I promise you, POIs can win you the round. Like there have been judges that have been like, this POI made you win. And I know that sounds crazy, right? But like if you have a actual logical blank and you figure out a gap in their case while they're speaking and you POI it, you can win just purely off of that if you make them look absolutely idiotic. Don't be mean. Just be like, really? Like really? Are you serious? Like if you actually just make them look stupid while they're speaking and then they, trip up and they get a little bit confused and they don't know how to respond, I promise you that that will look really, really good, not just on your strategy points, but also contingent to the ballot because they will be more likely to vote you up. Third, time allocation based on round dynamics. If your round is getting away from you, and you think that you're like more down, right? Like maybe you should be doing a little bit less constructive work on your own case and a little bit more refutation. Or if you think you are running away with the round and you think that you are winning and you think you're pretty far ahead, be a little bit more constructive. Make sure that your arguments are going to stay strong. Because I promise you, is if you're in the 2, let's say you're in the prop 2, right? And you're extending and you think you're winning already out of their opposition 1, make sure that you are extending because if you don't and their 2 is really, really good and they call all your stuff out, your 3 is going to be having to do a lot of legwork in their 3 to make sure that your case is going to be able to stand. It's also like don't ignore refutation, right? Like if you don't respond very adequately to like the refutation that they give onto your case, it will sit in the back of your judge's mind and especially on their flow because I don't just make my decision and judges don't just make their decision off of how they're feeling after every single speech. There's a reason that they take so long after an RFD or after the last 4 of the round looking at their flow for 20 minutes because they're looking at any single piece of evidence that wasn't responded to by the other team. I promise you just make sure that there are no stones left unturned and just like, differentiate for how your time allocation is happening. Fourth, framing the ballot for the judge. I think this is really important, especially for the reply speech. And Natalie kind of already hit this. Is like in your 4, make sure you are telling your judge exactly why you are winning. Your 4 main voters, why you are winning the round, why they're super important. That's a pretty simple concept. Then fifth, choosing which arguments to collapse on. This is a super big issue on the circuit currently because people will try to collapse on every single sub that they made. Don't do that. I promise, like you won't be able to do it because you simply do not have enough time to collapse on 3 separate substantives. Like choose the strongest substantive, maybe even 2 if you're confident, and go on those 2 substantives. Don't kick out of the other one. Address it very, very briefly, but do give 3 minutes of analysis on each one on why that is what you were collapsing on. Use the line like, Judge, note this on your ballot. This is the most important argument in the round, and I promise you will be winning more rounds if you know how to contextualize or if you know what to collapse on. Finally, adapting to opponent's strategy and judge preferences. Please look at paradigms. Like that is not done enough. Like There will people that will walk into rounds and they don't see on their judges paradigm that they've never judged a round of worlds. Or you see on their thing that's like, oh, this weighing is super important to me, or warrants are super important to me. If you leave a stone unturned and you don't respond to one of their arguments or one of their links, I won't vote for you. Make sure that you are actually looking at the judge's paradigm, because there have been plenty of times when I have not looked at the paradigm and it has been really, really bad because I'm not doing what they want. Also, if your opponent's strategy, if you see that they're like faltering and their strategy is not very good, like capitalize on that. Make sure that you are being very, very consistent, because I think that a lot of ballots are lost right now, especially because your team isn't consistent. They aren't forming a cohesive narrative, right? Because there's like a huge disconnect between the two, the three, and then the four, because they don't know how to argue with one another. If you are really, really like in touch, right? Like, and I was lucky enough to have my best friend as my three whenever I was debating with him last year, and we were very, very cohesive. You need to be very, very cohesive with your teammates, and I promise you'll be winning more rounds. Natalie, you can go ahead. I just talked for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, you're very lucky to have your three. I think that something that's very, very important when it comes to strategy is taking the time to talk with your teammates before a round, because realistically, you can plan out a debate before it even happens. Like that sounds like some crazy meta stuff, but you should be able to know that this is our strongest point. This is when we want to extend the entire time. You should have one of your points of clash already figured out before you step foot into that debate round, because you know that this is our strongest argument. We want to extend this. Maybe it's your principle, maybe it's your practical, but you should have one that you know that you are like, we need to make sure we're bringing this down. Talk to your teammates before round also. Make sure that they're very clear, like, hey, I kind of been wanting to collapse on this, because maybe yours two like wants to collapse on the principle, but the three really, really likes the practical. Again, like Liam said, there's going to be a large disconnect, and not everyone is grateful enough to have their best friend as the three. So you want to make sure that even if you don't have really, really good chemistry with them, that you can still carry down the argument and that you can still make sure things are really, really cohesive. Because even with like my team, I think that that was something that we kind of struggled with in the beginning, because we had never really all debated with each other before. So even though we were very good debaters individually, watching us wasn't like watching a team. It was like watching a bunch of individual people give their own individual speeches. In your own speech, you should be saying, hey, as my third speaker told you, blah, blah, blah. Or, hey, as we told you in case. Or you can even bring up their names, like humanize it. Like, hey, as my teammate Liam told you in the second speech, this isn't going to happen because of XYZ reason. So you really, really want to make sure that you're kind of tying it all together, because even making little mentions like that will tell the judge, like, oh, wait, like this girl is actually listening to her teammates and she's actually like bringing things back up, and it's a cohesive narrative, like Liam said. Oh, I spoiled the first one.
You did? Oh, yeah. Okay. Talk with teammates before round. I think this is really important. I think that Natalie kind of already hit this pretty well, but I think that like I think she's very, very correct with saying that like you can plan out a debate before it even happens. I can tell you there's been very, very like there's quite a few examples in which we've talked with teammates, coaches, stuff like that, and we've been able to basically predict the round before it even happened. Yeah. Um, Plan out POIs. I mean, like you can do that, but I mean, in my opinion, I think the best POIs. Natalie, you can just kind of jump in here. We can address these together.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah. But for plan
yeah.
POIs, it's less of also like, oh, I need to make sure I'm asking this, but more so like POI drills, because it looks really bad for the one if they get a POI and they have no idea what to say. That's why the one also needs to be well versed. So plan out POIs goes both ways. It goes like, A, here are things that I should be expecting in the first place, like questions to expect to ask. But you also want to make sure again that they're not like too stock, because if it is, then it's just gonna like not really do anything for the round. But plan out POIs again also goes for planning out the POIs that could come against you and being ready to again capitalize on that.
Very
Because one
true.
of the most important ways that strategy points are earned is through POIs. So just like kind of have that in the back of your mind when you're writing the case, have that when you go into round, and just like be ready for that. Plan out POIs also doesn't have to do with the actual POI itself, but who's asking the POIs, because it also looks really bad strategically if you only have me asking all of the POIs on them while Liam just sits there and like twiddles his thumbs, or like vice versa. It doesn't look good if Liam is asking like really, really, really good POIs, but then I go up there and I'm like, can you restate your evidence? So something that like my team does that even though this might sound silly, it's like if I have a POI, I'm like, I've already asked like three. I'll whisper it to my teammate and be like, hey, POI, and ask them that. Because also you're on a team, you want them to get good style points. Also, like you're weighed as a team. You're not just gonna win the round if you have perfect style and your teammates are like doing really, really bad. You want to make sure that they get up there too. So giving them good POIs is also a really good way to kind of like emphasize that you guys are a unit.
And overall, I mean, like, it might be like small, right? But like, even if it lifts up your teammates' strategy points a little bit, that could be the deciding factor. Like, I've had judges be like, oh, this was a debate won by zero point 0.5 points, 1 point, even, 2 points. That's still a really close margin. If it can lift up your teammate just a little bit, that could change the entire outcome of the round, right? So, like, I think that's really, really important. Also, I didn't address this, but like, not only asking good POIs is a good thing, but a really good response to a POI looks really good, right? So like if you can stump them all you want if you ask a POI, but if you can respond to a POI even better, that is what's going to make it look like you are well versed, you are very, very, very knowledgeable. It'll end up winning you rounds in the long run. Follow a structure, kind of already hit this, right? It's like just make sure that like you know exactly what's going to happen. This is kind of like forming some sort of like round vision. I think that's like a broader thing. It's like round vision. It's just like making sure that you know what's going to happen, what the structure of the round is going to be, stuff like that. Know your case. Oh my gosh. Like, I cannot tell you how many times that I've had teammates not know the case and they walk in there. Even I haven't known the case sometimes. And you walk in there and I'm just like, oh, what was our first sub again? What was the link on the under the second sub? Like I cannot tell you how not only annoying it is to your judge, but also your teammates because they are going to get like pissed off to put that very, very lightly. Improve round vision. I mean, this is, just like try to have some sort of plan on what the round is going to be like before it ever happens. And like even though that it might not happen and how you plan out, it's just still good to have it so you have plan A and then you might move to plan B, plan C, stuff like that. Natalie, if you want to add something
Yeah,
on
I
that.
was going to say really quickly, I think, in my opinion, strategy, as I said earlier, is one of the most difficult things to improve because of this idea of like round vision. You might hear judges talk about it, you'll hear us talk about it, you'll hear coaches talk about it, because in high level debates, it comes down to round vision. You can win all of your arguments, but if you are not emphasizing the ones that need to be emphasized, then you're going to lose. And I know that that's very vague. It's like, oh, Natalie, how do you know which ones need to be emphasized? That's kind of the point. That's the idea of round vision. The idea of round vision is knowing the arguments that are important for the round and winning the round because you could be winning a majority of the arguments, but if that one niche little argument slips by and that's the deciding factor, like so
You're
be it.
cooked.
Because there's a good chance this has happened to both me and Liam, probably against each other, honestly, where it's like one of us will win a majority of the like three out of the five substantives that are in the round. But that one substantive was the one that was a deciding factor. We don't know why. Maybe it's because the judge had some personal tie to it. Like stuff like that can happen. So round vision is kind of this more like mystical thing that's like really, really difficult to kind of watch. Something that again I recommend high level debate rounds, watching them because also watching the RFD. A lot of the time you'll know who wins by the end. You'll know what the decision is. So you watch this debate round because there'll be times you watch a debate round of nationals of 2015 or something. You're like, oh, 6-0 for the neg turns out to be a 5-1 for the AF or something like that. Like knowing that and knowing like, oh, this is what the judge is voting on can also help you when you're going into round being like, I might think I'm winning. The judge isn't though. And that goes into the last one though, Liam, if you want to talk about it, like watching the judge's face.
Oh my gosh,
It
yes.
might sound silly, but like it's a serious
Um,
strategy.
like there are some judges, albeit that like will not have any facial rec like
My
you will
coach.
not be able to know what it's doing. But like I know me and Natalie have some friends who are, I'm not going to name names, but there are judges who will be like, oh, yeah, whenever you're saying something good, or, oh, what the hell are you even talking about? Like, what, like if you're doing something bad, just like if you're doing something bad and they're obviously not liking it, just don't do it. They're like, move on. Or if you're saying something good, really milk it, right? Like, oh, yes, this is happening in this place. Oh, yeah, that makes really a lot of sense. Keep going. Make sure that you are really tearing on their heartstrings a little bit and you are convincing them. I think that like one of the biggest things is people just read the case and like you need to be able to adjust or they just go down their flow and hit it a lot. Like if you are not winning an argument, it's very obvious because the judge isn't buying it, move on. Like you're losing out on valuable time that you could be using on stuff that you're winning on. So just like be aware, right? And I think that, is just like a broader thing. Like look up from your flow. Like I feel like a lot of people, they like stand there at the podium and they're not making any eye contact, just looking down at their flow. I'll tell you, I used to have that problem. Fortunately, I don't anymore. Yeah, I mean, that's what I have to say about that.
I think again, strategy is difficult, but the best way to get at strategy, I think, aside from all the others, is practice. I think content you can improve on your own. I think style you can improve on your own, but I really do think strategy is one of those ones you can only get better at it through specifically competing more in world schools. That doesn't have to just be like these like big level tournaments, like go to an online tournament, do scrimmages with other teammates. Like a lot of people are really scared of scrimmages, but like shoot, just find a team in your area
Do it,
and just
bro.
hit them up. The worst they can say is no. Dripping Springs has told me many times that they don't want to scrimmage, and I'm still going to ask
That
Liam
wasn't
after
me.
this if he
That
wants
wasn't
to
me. I
scrimmage. You
promise.
know, but
Like, yeah, especially go to online tournaments. Like, go to what was it? I think we got invited to a random tournament.
Malaysia.
No, it was some local. Oh no, it was the Puget Sound local tournament in Washington. It was the one that Tate Kirkpatrick is from, their school.
Mount Vernon.
Mount Vernon, the online tournament.
Yeah.
And
So
they
like
were
do
like,
stuff like that.
"Oh, come join us. It's gonna be great." Like, go to that debate against LV Hightower from the middle of nowhere. That was my first ever debate round, and I got cooked. Just get that experience. I promise it'll make you better. Like, there is no better feeling than walking into a round and like you have a strategy that you think no one has thought of, right? Like, and you're like, wow, this is going to be great. I've done it against Natalie. I've done it against very high level rounds. Unfortunately, we lost, but I thought that the strategy was genius, right? Like, I think there's no better feeling than thinking you have the best strategy in the world, and it'll also make you debate better. So, yeah,
And also, again, I think what Liam said is really, really important of these online tournaments that are like national circuit. Guys, Texas
get
is a
bits.
different beast than these like nationals.
I
Texas, like
promise you will mog them.
TFA, well, no, you will mog them, but like they like states do it so differently. Like it's
Yeah.
so because I think what we are really trying to emphasize here is like nationals kind of is just like abandons tech. I fear. I like a lot of
Yeah.
nationals is like what pure world schools is supposed to be of like people feel like they get screwed at nationals because they're like, oh, we won the round, but like again, that team could have just beat you because they had better style. And according to like what they're teaching at NSDA, that's totally okay. So you really need to be prepared for that at tournaments like nationals, at these like
They're
online.
brainwashing judges at Nats, I promise. Like
Oh my God,
we were getting
Liam,
notes from that judge from the judge training there, and they're just feeding them a crock of nothing. Like I
Liam, be
promise
careful.
you.
No,
Well, I
but
mean,
yeah, you are right
yeah,
though. Like and that's another thing. You should have like if your coach goes to judge training, whoever your judge is,
utilize
have
that.
someone ask them. Always ask them, "Hey, what are they learning?" Because like I remember at some judge training, they're like, "Hey, if they don't have a sub 3, mark them down a million
Where
points."
was that? That was
Was that
Greenhill.
like it was UT?
I thought it was Greenhill.
Oh, it was Greenhill, yeah. But like specific tournaments have norms. And unfortunately, there is kind of this barrier of privilege where it's like you may not just be lucky enough to know the norms of the tournament because you've never been there or because your coach is in the upper echelon of coaches or whatever. But I mean, like going to judge training, pay attention to that, like asking your friends, because strategy can also change per tournament. If you know a tournament's going to have more tech judges, be more techy. You know a tournament's going to be a lot more light, be more light.
Yes.
Thank you guys for your attention. I know this
Yes.
went a lot
Yeah.
longer than expected,
Yeah, I didn't
but
think it was gonna be like an hour.
if you guys have any questions, let us know. If not, then we'll let
Y'all can just ask away if you really need to right now.
I have two questions.
Mhm.
Yeah, man. Go ahead.
Um, so firstly, I'm not that good at responding to POIs, so what do you think I could do to like improve on that?
Ball knowledge. I mean, that's probably the best thing. Like, just make sure you know the case beforehand. Like, if there's like a concept that you don't understand in the case, I mean, like, I'm sure, like, you have pretty good resources. Like, literally, just like ask Tage if you really have to. Be like, what does this mean, Tage? Explain this to me. Or like, just if you put in an effort to understand it, I promise you'll be able to respond to POIs better. Like,
Also, if it is a matter of nerves or something like that, if it's something like anxiety or you just kind of get thrown off by that feeling, It is better to admit that you don't know than try and stumble to come up with an answer you know isn't going to come to you. If you know for sure they are asking something you don't know the answer, just take a deep breath and just literally just say something as simple as like, I don't have the answer for that now, but my partner can address it in their speech.
Yeah,
Something like that. Like you just need to be very calm and very like confident, even if you're being confidently incorrect. Like, frankly, there are definitely instances where, like, as again, when my first time ever doing world schools, people would ask me POIs and it was like just like an anxiety thing. Like I just couldn't answer. But I learned that it was always better to just kind of like answer, even if it's not the answer you think the judge wants to hear, just getting something out that is cohesive than to just kind of sit there and like ponder on it, you know?
Also, if you're able to confidently BS, that looks good too.
Yeah. But also like humility. Judges also always understand like we
Yeah.
aren't perfect. So like they're not expecting you to know everything. So you could also just always just be like, I'm not sure about that. Like just something like that. Like it might hurt you in the moment to say in terms of like pride or embarrassment, but I promise you, you're not gonna be the first one who doesn't know stuff. Like I don't know stuff. Liam doesn't know stuff. Like we're not all like superhuman
We're not
machines.
all geniuses. Like we're not all ChatGPT in our brain. Like I promise you. We all came from the point in which we were like, if they ask me a POI, I'm gonna start crying while I'm standing here. Like I promise you,
I
we
cried
always
during my first speech.
yes, the first time they ever asked me a POI, I started tweaking out and I was like, what the heck is going on? What do you mean a governmental organization? I don't know what that is. Like, I promise you, we've all been there. Like we've all been scared. We've all not known how to respond to a POI. If you're just be like, my next speaker will respond to it if you really, really do not know how to respond, or just confidently BS your judge or the other team. Like, I promise you that has also worked in the past.
Don't say a straight up lie, but
Okay,
you can
yeah,
just
don't
yeah.
do that.
But there is a way to BS and just be like, as I just said, because again, also just think about it. They're gonna POI you on something you just recently said. So like think about what you just said and be like, how does that interact? And just be like, we already answered that within our case when we told you blah blah blah. Even if it's not that right answer, just keep moving on. Like even if you don't answer that POI correctly, at least you got something out.
All right. Well, I mainly do three, so I don't think the whole my next speaker will answer this might work
Yeah, maybe
in that
not.
scenario, but I get what you're saying. I mean, I feel like a lot of it for me is just like not knowing the case or not knowing the topic as well as I probably should. So I feel like if I improve that, the improvements in POI responses would come naturally. Anyway, my second question was about like I know at the end, like when y'all were talking about content, you were talking about like the importance of like having nuance or whatever.